of my previous videos, I discussed the importance of having the six key elements to building a durable financial plan. Today, we will go over the recommended allocations and we will look at an example to see if it's practical. Just to recap, the six key elements are income, which is needed to start building our wealth or sustaining its growth, savings for emergencies to avoid selling off investments at wrong times and for the wrong reasons, money to invest to speed up our path to financial success, money to give because the feelings we get in return by making a difference in someone's life is just so fulfilling, money to spend on our needs is just key for survival. We need our basic needs met before we can be fully functional. And money to spend on our wants is just to reward ourselves and to motivate us to stick to our financial plan. Now that we remember the six key elements, our next question is how much do we allocate for each element? It's always situational, but generally speaking, when someone is starting out, the recommended allocation is 60% on our needs and 10% for each of the remaining elements. So 60% on our needs, 10% on our wants, 10% to savings for emergency situations, 10% towards investing, and 10% for giving. Let's put those into dollars and see if it's doable. I'm going to use an easy number for calculation purposes, but I understand that some of you might make a lot less or a lot more. Let's use an annual income of $100,000 after taxes, and let's assume that we're living in the most expensive city in the US in 2023, which is San Diego. Let's also assume that this is for a family of three with two adults or two sources of income and a child in grade school. Allocating 10% on savings for emergency will equate to $10,000 per year, which is about $833 per month. After saving enough money for emergency, about 3 to 6 months worth of expenses, we can stop contributing to this element and allocate this 10% to building our wealth or investing. Setting aside 10% towards investing and gradually aiming to invest 20% once the emergency savings is fully funded will equate to $20,000 per year or about $1,600 per month. However, when starting out with debt, this might have to be temporarily put on hold and be used towards paying off debt. Be as aggressive as possible to pay off debt because time is essential to investing. This might mean temporarily getting a second job just until the debt is paid off, except for mortgage. Then allocate another 10% towards giving or $833 per month. Just imagine how much joy and hope that amount can bring to other people. Maybe helping someone pay for medical bills or helping someone graduate from school or even buying someone a meal or a cup of coffee. Just be selective on who you help. Some people don't need your money. They just need a lesson to stop overspending. Make your gifts meaningful. But again, if you're in the process of getting out of debt, this is another area that you might have to pause until your debts are paid off, except for mortgage. Then here comes the big one, setting aside 60% of your income towards your needs, which include food, clothing, toiletries, utilities, transportation, and insurance. This equates to $60,000 per year or $5,000 per month. This is where you have to really distinguish your needs from your wants. For example, a family of three can live in a two-bedroom apartment for around $2,700 in a decent neighborhood in San Diego. If you want a bigger and better place, then that's no longer a need, it's a want. Words of wisdom: enable to attain financial wealth, don't sacrifice your needs, including savings and investing, for what you want. Same goes for your transportation. I used to think that we will always have a car payment because by the time I pay off my car, it will be time to get a new one, and that's a total BS. Most often, we just get tired of our cars and want to get something new, even if it's not needed. The average car payment in 2023 is $700 per month, so using public transportation is much cheaper. But who are we kidding? Public transportation in San Diego is not the finest. However, there are decent cars that are more affordable. That $700 per month could be for two vehicles already. Add another 400 for gas, 200 for utilities, 200 for car and renter's insurance, and we're left with $800 for food, toiletries, and clothing, which is still reasonable for two adults and a child, even with the recent increase in prices. That equates to about $200 per week, and this is just for the basic necessities. We still have 10% allocated for our wants, or another $833 per month. You might argue with me and say our mobile phones are part of our necessities, but my grandma lived up to 104 years without a cell phone, so to me, it's not a necessity, it's a luxury. Taking $100 for the phone, another $100 for internet and security systems, there is still $633 left for eating out, entertainment, travel, amusement parks, kids' activities, and gadgets. Living in a beautiful city where you're paying a premium for the weather, having a staycation is a great way to spend time with family at a reasonable cost. In this scenario, it seems practical, but most often people spend too much in one area and take away from other areas, which causes chaos and weak financial plans. In other cases, to be able to stay within the 60% max of income on needs, they just need to live in a less expensive city or somehow boost their income. What about those kids who needs to go to private school or college? Most education that are truly necessary are free here in the US. Here's another fine line between wants and needs. I know people who went to crappy schools and ended up on top of their careers. I also know people who went to private school and top universities and ended up abandoning their careers. I truly believe that if one has the drive to succeed, they will find a way no matter what school they go to. As your wealth increases, the percentages might shift, but for someone who is starting out, the 60-10 rule is a good starting point. No matter how little income you have, as long as you save some of it, you will always be richer than someone who is buried in debt, no matter how high their income may be.